In less than 6 months, we are going to have 2 adaptations of Mary Shelley's 1818 novel, Frankenstein. The latest being Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride. It draws inspiration from the 1935 film The Bride of Frankenstein, which was based on the Shelley novel. And this interpretation is absolutely bonkers. It's so bonkers. It takes place in 1930s Chicago, where Frankenstein's monster asks Dr. Euphronius, played by Annette Bening, to create a companion for him. Together, they give life to a murdered woman known as the Bride, sparking romance, police interest, and radical social change. This movie takes some very, very big swings, and I don't want to spoil anything, but right off the bat, I was like, oh, this is going to be a wild swing of a movie, because the framing device is so cuckoo bananas. And you know what? I gotta hand it to Maggie Gyllenhaal for making these big decisions. She is taking this iconic character and story and really putting her stamp on it. And you know what? She's presenting a lot of really interesting ideas with this adaptation and giving us a lot of great visuals on the screen. I think that was the highlight of this movie. There are some stunning imagery on the IMAX screen. If you can see it in IMAX, I highly recommend that. It is this fantastical, heightened imagery that is just built for the big screen. There's some gorgeous black and white cinematography. There's some other imagery that like really uses this maximalist color. It's stunning. She takes some big swings on these fantasy sequences. I was quite taken with those. I think it's really fun, really interesting, and it adds to the overall flair of the film. However, my issue with a lot of these fantasy sequences is that they're not consistent. The logic is not there. Certain characters are like tapping into those fantasies, but then suddenly everyone can see them when they previously couldn't. It's very inconsistent. It's very blurry in that regard. And I just think this film is kind of a lot of great visual ideas, a lot of great visual flair strung together by a very thinly written but bloated script. Going from The Lost Daughter to the scale of this is really impressive for Gyllenhaal. I think she's really showing off as someone who can handle like this big budget filmmaking style. I think there's no doubt in my mind that she's meant for this, right? She is a great director with a great eye. Problem comes with the fact that it's trying to do too many things. There is this interesting framing device that like permeates the film that kind of becomes almost distracting. We have the central romance between the bride and Frankenstein, as he's called in this movie. And then, as the logline suggests, we have this radical social change. And so because there's so much like competing for time and attention, it doesn't click into like this cohesive movie. It's very bloated and overstuffed, and we don't get to explore any one thing impactfully, so they all kind of suffer. This is supposed to be like this feminist take on this character. We're dissecting these ideas of female rage and reclamation of self and inspiring this like revolution in the movie. However, I think it's a very shallowly explored idea. We don't really get into this idea of female rage or reclamation or self-identity beyond very, very surface level depictions of it. And I don't need it to be like this like intellectual PhD level dissertation on that, right? But it just really thinly explores that. There's one sequence in particular that I won't spoil, but I was kind of like, oh, this feels kind of like where I was like, oh, and it teeters into this kind of girl boss feminism territory for me. I really do, though, see what it's going for, what it's trying to achieve here, and everybody is going for it full force. I think Buckley is giving a big, loud swing of a performance. She's doing the absolute most. I don't think it's going to work for everyone, but I do think she's in service of the vision and in service of what Maggie Gyllenhaal is trying to achieve. It is crazy, like watching this performance, watching this movie, and knowing in a week she's going to have an Oscar. Like, it's kind of baffling. I think Penelope Cruz is a lot of fun in this. I really enjoyed her work. Jake Gyllenhaal's kind of fun in the little bit we see him. I think Christian Bale's a little like thin as Frank. I don't think he gets much to do. Honestly, a lot of these characters are very thin and don't get to do really interesting things beyond like yell and be a little like kooky, but I do think a lot of the other performances are much more interesting than what Bale is giving. In addition to the visuals I mentioned earlier, I did enjoy actually how romantic this was. I kind of thought it was going in one direction. I didn't think it would be. But I did really like the romantic aspect of it. I thought that really worked for me and really anchored me into this. I also appreciated that it didn't shy away from the brutality of any of it. There's some brutal stuff here. There is violence depicted, there's abuse depicted. I really appreciated that Gyllenhaal didn't shy away from that and really leaned into that. Yeah, I really wanted to love this. I just think it really lacks a lot of focus. If it kind of focused and went in a more committed lane, I think it would have worked for me, but it's so all over the place. There's no through line of logic, and I know this is a monster movie, this is like a sci-fi horror film, but I don't mind like wacky, kooky stuff as long as there is like an in universe logic grounding it, but there's no consistency there. And like I said, a lot of the themes are being explored at a very, very surface level. Very well intentioned, a very cool concept, but it just didn't work for me. That being said, it worked for a lot of people coming out of my screening. A lot of people really liked to loved it. I think mileage is going to vary on this. And while I think a lot of the big swings didn't necessarily resonate for me, they're going to work for a lot of people. I think people were very excited about this, and I could see this being a nice introduction into like this character, this text, this world of other monster movies. I think it could be a really cool gateway for that. So that's exciting. I am kind of leaning at like 2.5 out of 5 stars, actually. I was neither in love with it, I didn't hate it. I'm just kind of sitting in the middle. Thank you so much for checking out this review. Make sure you do all the things you're supposed to do with the YouTube channel. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me everywhere because we got more reviews coming. Project Hail Mary is coming up. We've got Oscars coming up, and you aren't going to want to miss it. So until the next one, bye!